All right, Pot of Gold, welcome back. I'm Brett. I'm here with Mike Grant, the intern, in literally an undisclosed location behind the glass this week. LSU takes down Mississippi State 31-16. Mike, hit us up on Twitter at potofgold at gmail.com, patreon.com/gold at gold Mike. I will put a link to the Discord chat. I kind of got some shit on Twitter. I'll put a link in the the notes for the podcast to check out the Discord. It used to be a place where we all just would chat during the game and in the week, and it kind of died off. So we'll try to get that going. A good win. Like Mike, you keep saying we got to celebrate the wins.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a phenomenal victory. It's a huge step in the right direction for Brian Kelly, not only in the record book, but just for that locker room. You know, they're really selling that culture change. They're really selling the little things, the small details, executing the game plan, no matter who we're playing against. And honestly, this was a very good SEC opponent. This was our first true test going into this season after we have kind of figured out who our guys are. They shuffled with some lineups at different position groups, and it looks like they're slowly but surely figuring out who their best guys are and who plays together well as a unit. And we did it against again a really good SEC team that'll just further prepare us. And when I say we need to celebrate the wins, you know, who knows what this season will hold. And it's honestly one of those years where you have to look at the little victories, the small wins when it comes to, hey, guys, going into this week, we need to execute tackling. And guess what? We learned how to tackle. We have a good defensive game plan. We execute it. Hey, guys, we need to find who our unit is on the offensive line finally. And I think we've shored that up a bit. So there's little victories, along the way. And holding Mississippi State to 16 points, and I don't know how many yards. I'm sure we have those statistics, but extremely impressive on the defensive side. And again, slow start on offense, but you see they slowly get into that rhythm. And once that rhythm gets going, it's a confidence builder, not only for the team, but some of the fans. We really get confident towards the end of these games.
Yeah, and strength and conditioning definitely goes into that. I think it's something that we can discuss, but in the grand scheme of things, game to game wins and losses this season is not going to matter. Like looking back on the Brian Kelly era tenure at LSU, it's like the game to game stuff I don't think matters a ton. Like it's great to get these wins, but what's better is like you kind of mentioned off the top is seeing all of these guys buy into the culture change that's coming. And BJ Ojulari giving Brian Kelly the game ball, I think, after the Southern game, talking about like how much he appreciated what he's done for them and like trying to get them on track and building that. Like that's what gives you real excitement down the line that can get you really excited when you see Emory Jones out there as a true freshman making moves, when you see a guy like Harold Perkins being a dude as a freshman. Knowing that that culture is being instilled and like this team is going to get overlooked in the grand scheme of things. Like there was a team probably 2000, maybe 2001 that was like really solid. That was a foundational team that, when you go to just a random good bowl, it's like, okay, cool. And then a team a couple of years later wins a natty. And it's like, well, this was the building block. And you can kind of see that with how this team like literally just doesn't give up. It looks really bad. And I think that there's some issues, and we're gonna probably talk about like not being able to get your main playmakers the ball at all, really. But they just kind of overcome that. And then when you talk about the defense, it's the most exciting defense I've watched at LSU since a long time.
Yeah, it's been a couple years now that we've been able to kind of be confident when we have third downs. And hell, if they're going to challenge us with fourth and shorts, we're coming up with it. We're actually making plays and performing. So that was really good to see. But back to your point, it's so true that the wins and losses for this season, they can't be dissected into, how come we didn't do this? How come we didn't do that? It's the within the game victories that really matter for this year. And like you said, wins and losses won't be what this team is remembered by. It's going to be how they always fought so far. I mean, look, we're 4 games in, 3 games in.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
they fought to the end in the fourth quarter. is what I like to see so far, especially right out of the gates against Florida State. We turned it on late. Southern, we did what we were supposed to do, and then Mississippi State, we executed our game plan and we made the most out of our opportunities and made the most out of their missed opportunities, their turnovers. We capitalized on those things. We have been a witness to what happens on the other side, on the receiving end of those mistakes. We are now capitalizing on other teams' mistakes, and it's very good to see. This team is learning; they're coachable, and that's the biggest takeaway from this season. Is we have to see how coaching truly progresses a rebuilding roster. You look at the offensive line; they are building this thing for Walker Howard to step in and literally not have an ounce of pressure. Like those guys are going to be dominant up front by the time
Yeah.
Walker Howard is the starting quarterback. Our receivers, I don't like the game plan. We'll get into that. I think the protection is getting better, but I think overall philosophy, I would like to see us change that up a little bit. I don't know if you want to dive right into that right now, or stick to some of the positives, or we can kind of just flow with this one. We can kind of vibe out because a good victory, we need some vibes.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd really just wanted to add on is like, yeah, this team has made a huge jump from when we were in New Orleans a couple weeks ago watching. Like
Yes.
that team that played against Mississippi State is way better. It's been different. Like honestly, it's been a lot more Les Miles-ish football than I thought. I thought that Brian Kelly would bring a little bit more of the, I don't know, fundamentals is the right word, but it's like you can see so much of it building.
Yeah, no,
And we can
absolutely. The O-line penalties is what irks me. Like that's
yeah.
where I'm like, wait, what are we doing with these with those little things, with the
Well, and for me
communication?
watching, it's like I get that you know, and I think Brian Kelly said in the press conference they're like trying to be perfect and overdo things, but it's like, how do you not snap the ball? How do you not throw the ball back? Like that kind of shit when everyone's on the same page except the one dude who needs to be on the same page.
Mhm.
Like I don't
There's some
understand.
issues there, and that's I mean, dude, that's honestly why they forced Dellinger to figure out that position
Yeah.
because they didn't trust Charles Turner, when the game's on the line in the big moments. I think they trust his communication, but as far as processing what's going on and being in sync with the quarterback and the rest of the O-line, I don't think he was ready just yet. But we're seeing that all five of them need to get on the same page. And honestly, the whole offense needs to get on the same page. The communication seems great on defense. Offensively, like Jaden Daniels and Booty, Jaden Daniels and a couple of his other receivers, the communication is not there. Not the communication, but they're not in sync. Like you
Yeah.
could see many of these plays where Jaden Daniels drops back and, everybody at home is screaming at their television, like he's wide open. He's wide open. What are you looking at?
That one. That one.
Yeah,
Throw it to
yeah, like,
him.
I think there's many of those plays where, it's either Booty's supposed to settle in the zone and that's what, Jaden thinks about to happen, so he's hesitant to let it rip, so he holds on a little further as the guy takes off down the field. I think they're not in sync with their timing, and he doesn't wanna make a mistake, and he hasn't yet. And he's able and he's confident enough in his legs to bail himself out. We are fortunate that he has been able to bail himself out, but that will end very soon. He
Yeah.
has to be able to push the ball down the field, and we have to be able. I know we're beating a dead horse. Get our playmakers the ball in their hands, but like you can't utilize an offense around a tight end when your only tight end is the true freshman Mason Taylor. Like he's going to be good, and I can't wait to see this offense where it's hitting on all cylinders, where a tight end can be heavily involved. But
And
right now,
it's possible you could do that with a guy like Jack Besh, but guess
well, and
what?
that's the
Jack
thing.
Besh
Where is
isn't
he?
on the field.
Yeah, where is Besh? And I know
Yeah.
people are like, oh, we got passed up, blah blah blah. That's living in a world in a bubble where like, oh, he's a receiver, so whoop, he's second string.
Right.
So as long as Dre Jenkins is healthy, we're not going to see Jack Besh. Like, no, dude, that's how you lose games. That's how you waste talent. You have to find ways to get your best players on the field. And Mason Taylor may be one of our best players, but don't depend on him every single third down and all these very crucial plays that are going to Mason Taylor. Again, Mason Taylor is another one of those guys in those five offensive linemen that are going to be part of our future. It's great, but take the hand you have right now. Take the talented
It
Booty.
just Yeah, I was just gonna say it just gives me flashbacks and reminds me so much of us like walking into these games and saying like I know we have Ruben Randall, who's the nastiest receiver that's gonna be in the building today, and he's really not gonna get the ball very much. Like, that's kinda how I'm, like, starting to feel going into these games, like, yeah, it's cool. It's, like, almost like playing NCAA 14 where it's like, "Well, I'm just gonna scramble." Like, I'm just gonna run with Troy Smith because, like, why not? It's fun to do. And, yeah, that's cool, but you have all these weapons. You have to be able to stretch the field. Like when you start getting one dimensional against really legit teams that you're going to go against, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And it's like also looking down the line. I know kids can buy in and like the culture, but if we don't get the ball to playmakers, then no one's going to want to come here.
No, no doubt. I think it's a work in progress. I do believe that the tight end is going to be a fundamental cornerstone to this offense. I think that, Mason Taylor is going to get better. Our tight end recruiting is going to be dominant. It's already lined up to be fierce in the next couple seasons. Tavon Galloway, then you got like the top kid in the state coming out of I forgot what town in Louisiana, but he's like ridiculous tight end coming out as well. All athletic guys, very similar to that tight end room in Georgia. Like you're going to see that at LSU. But
Maybe a little lighter room in Georgia.
correct. Eric Gilbert
I
is,
think we broke that news first that Eric Gilbert was not going to be on the Georgia team
yeah, pretty crazy.
like 8 months ago.
But with all that being said, I think there's a rhyme and reason for everything they do. There's a process that Brian Kelly has. I think if the one thing that does kind of worry me is just that we're not on that same page yet, communication wise, with
Yes.
the entire offense, where the defense looks like they're a little bit ahead of us. But I really think that comes down to personnel. We didn't name our starting quarterback till week one.
Yeah.
We still have not named a solid five offensive line. We were waiting on John Emery to come back as a running back. Like we
Mhm.
are now finally on offense figuring out like who's our guys. Now we need to get those repetitions in whenever we face A, B, C, D type of defense. We got to get the ball out quicker too. Like if Jaden Daniels is being hesitant to push it downfield, get it out quicker, so you don't have to wait and you don't have to buy that time. And we finally started doing that on the goal line with Jerry Jenkins' touchdown. That was a
Yeah.
quick route, quick developing play. And Jerry Jenkins, dude, if you want to talk about Mister Reliable, just tough son of a bitch, him and Jaden Daniels, tough as nails, man.
Yeah. I was gonna say we definitely need to get positive because there's a ton of positives to take from this game. One, shout out to us for making the good runs nickname famous. Joe Tess
Stole that shit. He read the
didn't
book.
credit us, but he obviously listened to the pod to prep for the games. Um, Jaden Daniels, the throw to Malik Neighbors was an awesome fourth down throw that he put on the money. It was kind of cool to see Brian Kelly. No,
Yes.
if you look him, just watching at home, you're like, "Oh, he's just yelling at his quarterback, blaming his quarterback." He's teaching. He's out
Mhm.
there teaching, and it was one of the first times, honestly, like, I felt like he was commanding the sidelines a little bit more, and then you come out of that timeout, I think, and he puts the ball on the money. He comes in the post-game press conference and said, "Yeah, we wanted to keep his, shoulder in a little bit longer, had to remind him of that, and he threw a good ball." It's like, welcome to coaching, boys. Like
That's
that
what we've been
I'm
missing.
s
That's what we've
I'm
been
so
begging each other, right? It's like, "Hey,
yes.
can anyone on our sideline that's like, other than Tommy Moffitt, really get in someone's ass and know what they're talking about?"
Yeah.
Not just like, "Get better." It's just, no, like, "Hey, your shoulder is not pointed in the right direction. What the fuck are you doing?" Like, you could literally see Brian Kelly yelling at him like, "What the fuck are you doing? Turn your shoulder. Like, get
Yeah.
your head out of your ass." And he did it. It executed. Like, he listened to the coaches. That's what I love about Jaden Daniels, man. He's so calm and collected, and you can really tell nothing really phases him when he has a lot of
Mhm.
these rough plays. It's just like, hey, that was bad. That was not a good read, or that was not a good throw. And then all of a sudden he gets his ass jumped by his head coach and he understands what he's doing wrong. And then boom. That was fourth down, right? Where he hit Neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like
Which,
gorgeous
like, I
ball.
don't know, I don't know if the right play call is to just throw it up. I will tell you the right play call is to go for 2, when you're up 7. That very much pissed me off that we didn't even consider that, but that's okay. That's okay, Brian.
I
We'll
mean,
figure out the
Polian,
analytics at a
yeah,
different time.
Brian Polian's not going for 2 anytime soon. If he is helping out with the two-point conversion type of offense, which he's not, I'm just kinda making a joke here about Brian Polian, then we're up Shit's Creek. Because Polian, the special
Special teams is
team,
a problem.
I mean,
Special
like, can
teams
we
is a
just get the
problem.
walk-ons out of there? Like, we're
That's
at a
the
point
thing.
now where we need to, like, play our dudes.
It's like, but it's like, do I want to give you a little bit of credit here and say LSU played a bowl game with 38 scholarship
Sure.
players, whatever. We can go down this thing. Was Emory Jones tackle on punt pretty cool? Yes. It's like, is that really? Do
That
we?
was sick. That
It
was
was
sick.
sick. But it just was like, do we not have, and I get he was probably like, I don't know where he was lined up on the play, but it just to me was like, do we not have like linebackers and stuff that we could throw out there to have a little bit more? And I get this dude's an athlete and like I'm all down to keep him out there. But it was one of those like, are we just, like you said, throwing out like all the walk-ons and freshmen because we have no one else? And we're like, hey guys, you're just gonna have to figure out special teams. Good luck.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I really don't like how it's all walk-ons, and I'm not just talking about like punt returner and stuff. I'm talking like legit, like everyone running down the field head hunting is just like white kids that are wearing like number 90. I'm just like, who are these people? Like,
Back
what are
in
we
the
doing?
day back in the day, LSU special teams, I am all down to kick it to the 5-yard line and say Jarvis Landry's coming for you. Let's just kick it out of the end zone. Like,
Have we been
let's
able to do that much?
I
I mean,
don't know, not
it
much.
hasn't really
Let's
looked
find
like it.
someone on campus, step up. We have, like, 9 kickers that Brian Kelly says is not that bad. Like, can we let's just this year
But here's
only, let's call a truce out there
right.
to the world. We will not put a punt returner back there, and, we will never try anything cute on kickoff. Deal, deal, and,
Yeah.
like, next year, we'll see what happens.
Well, and the other thing really is this season is going to be one of those years where you can like pinpoint exactly what the problems are. Like they're
Yeah.
obvious and they're staring at you in the face. Like no one's arguing over what the problem is so far this season. It's like special teams is terrible right now. And like that's
Mhm.
that's a depth issue. I really think it has a lot to do with who are on those special teams for one. So you have to have enhanced coaching, and I don't think Brian Polian is that great of a special teams coach. That has been said for many years from Notre Dame fans, like, get ready, Polian's a good recruiter, but your special teams are going to suck. It's kind of what we're seeing. But he also is probably very dependent on good, talented players, which we're using, Frank Frione or whatever the
Yeah.
kid's name is, all over the place. So that and then the offensive line, which I feel has improved. Like that's the good thing though, is you can circle what the issues are week by week so far, and you can see improvement and reception to the coaching every single week moving forward.
M moving
That is
Jay
great.
moving Jay Ward around. I
Best
mean,
decision.
it's
That
disgusting
Jay
that
Ward looks like Jamal Adams.
it's sad that it's taken 18 and a half minutes for us to bring Jay Ward up, but it's really cool to see a coach come in. Look, Jay Ward's a guy that I've always thought has been good. Period. Like,
Mhm.
no capital G, just good. Like a serviceable player that was gonna maybe find a spot on a practice squad and play in the league for a couple of years. It's cool when a defensive guy comes in and one of these guys who's been here for a while and you kind of thought you knew what he was. When you watch him on against Mississippi State, you're like, that's an NFL starter. Like that guy,
It's a
and it's
breath of
just
fresh
cool.
air.
It's cool to see someone put a player in that position
Mhm.
and to, like, completely, like, revamp the way this kid's played and looked at, and I get it's one game and, like, he could get burned tomorrow, and we're all asking for him to be benched for someone else. I get that, but it was cool for that moment to be like, "Oh, shit, like, this dude is actually, like, gonna be a player in the league."
It was such a good move to put him at nickel, and you're only gonna get better at that position when Fouché comes back in 2 weeks. So he's gotta sit out one more, and then he will be back against Auburn. That means that your rotation at safety is just that much better, where you don't need to worry about moving Ward back to safety at all. He can
Yeah.
stay roaming at nickel, and it's perfect. Jay Ward made a play for that defense every single time he was on defense, every single snap. It didn't matter if he didn't actually make the tackle or make the interception or make the play breakup. he influenced every single play. There was a quick route out in the flats, and he blew up the lead blocker, which made
Yeah.
I think it was Greg Brooks come downhill and make a massive hit. Like, it was one thing after another where his pressure and his explosiveness on lead blockers alone provided alleyways for those other cats to come in and scoop it up. And then when he did make his own plays, it was sure tackles.
Yeah.
Him, Jay Ward, you're not getting out of that tackle. Harold Perkins, you're not getting out of that tackle. Baskerville, you're not getting out of that tackle.
Speaking
Those
of Harold Perkins, talk about not getting him out of the tackle. Talk about you're not going to be able to get him out of the lineup. Like
for sure.
we've
Where
let this guy on the
everywhere.
field.
His
He's
arms,
not.
his wingspan is like the size of this room, dude.
It is nice to see a number 40 just flying around
It
again.
is
Like
nice. I
it
like
is.
it. I like the ode
It
to
feels
Devin.
good. It feels good.
But
But
yeah,
like
dude, Jay
I
Ward
think
back there finishing with that pick, and he's okay, by the way. He didn't
yeah.
hurt his knee. He tweeted out
I
that he's fine.
I can't tell you how sad I was. I was like, is this kid really gonna have like the breakout of all breakouts, get an interception and rupture his knee and just completely tear something?
I
Like
know, like a
what a
Mason Smith, dude.
also like sitting there watching that game and watching the defensive line and how they got pressure and how Will whatever his name is never
Rogers,
really
yeah.
had time to get on time. It made you really sad that Mason Smith is not out there. Like, it was like, "Oh, like, if we coulda let this get some time to marinate," like, problems in the SEC, and I still think that this front and what Matt House is doing is going to give teams problems. Like we said, man, we watched, Alabama play Texas, that they're not invincible. Are they gonna be tough to beat? Absolutely. Are we gonna beat them? Probably not. But, like, after watching that, it's like, yeah, I think we can figure some things out to hold them a little bit.
Matt House, phenomenal game plan. Changing it up, right? Not just dropping back and keeping everything in front of you, really bringing pressure at times, changing the scheme up, really multiple looks in the backfield. But what was so great was that the execution from the defensive backs when they had no time to throw the football.
Mm,
Ojolari having that time to really come around all the way around the edge, finish his play. Even Savion Jones in there finishing their play, get around your tackle and finish just like you're coached. And they did that every single time. That defensive line is getting better and better each week as well. And you're right, dude. Just thinking about Mason Smith and the fact
it
that he is
sucks.
not
It
part of this
sucks.
defense because they're getting better and better. This is not the same defense from Florida State.
Well,
That's what's
and
crazy.
it kind of made me feel the defense at times looked like how I thought the Aranda defense was gonna look. Like,
Mhm.
at one point, it looked like there was all 4 guys, like, lined up to the right of the center and, like, no one on the left side, and it's just like, "Oh, they have no idea where the pressure's coming from." And it's like we didn't really I look, I would have to rewatch the game again and calculate it, but it didn't feel like we were blitzing a ton. It just felt like the pressure of 4 was coming. You didn't know exactly where it was coming from, like, at all. And that was cool to watch.
No, it
It
absolutely
was
was. And listen,
it
oh,
was
Grant,
in,
jump on in.
no, I was gonna say it was interesting. Some of the splits, and we were texting about this during the game. In third and
Oh,
longs, there was
Who are you
no
texting?
one.
who are you
You
texting?
got no, you guys when we were chatting during the game.
Don't remember anything about splits.
No, I didn't
Is
say
this
Different
Florida
crew.
splits.
State?
Listen, no, listen. What the whole point was, there was no one lined up over a guard. Everyone was from the outside shoulder, shaded a guard to the outside nine techs, all the way out there. And it was like no one was covering the center, no one was on the inside. And I was like, damn, this is kind of tight. And then what did we do? We sacked them. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, damn, we haven't seen looks like this. Usually, when there is a look like that, we have the backers walk down and then they fake it out. We didn't even do that, and it's like they could have
Yeah.
took off and ran, but we probably would have decapitated Rodgers. Um, but I was just happy to see different looks like that
Yeah.
that we've never seen
This is
before.
such a difficult offense to defend in a short amount of time, and it really takes it's not just playmakers. It really takes coaching to set you up in the right positions and execute a game plan, and that's exactly what happened. That tells me that this team is capable of getting better and preparing at least the right game plan, putting our guys in the right position. And we talked about it before we struck up the recording here. The defensive backs, right? Let's put Jay Ward aside. The DBs, they are not world beaters, right? They're not the best that we've ever had, but they play 100% to their potential every play. We are not seeing guys just get abused and burned
Right.
left and right. Like they are taking to coaching. They're always in the right position. And one of these, eventually, they're going to make a play on the ball. They're not playing the ball that well just yet. I think they're still getting used to the speed and everything of the higher
The
level game, but they're
calls and the
right there.
scheme.
Yeah. I mean, they're right
Yeah.
there.
I feel like I can't really tell you who's good, who's bad. They're all just like out there and they're doing their job. It's like, yeah, maybe we're not like making these ridiculous picks and stuff, but the guy's always in good coverage. And it's like, if you want to make the completion, you have to go make the play. And it's good to see. It's like, I
I
don't know. It's just like I
mean,
can't point to one
they're
guy because they're all just out there kind of doing their job, which is
they're
cool. It's like
they're
no one to point the
the,
finger at.
the two touchdowns are a brutally missed tackle. I mean, we're
Yes.
right
Yeah.
there. I mean, missed tackle. And the other touchdown was the guy he's 6'5", like he mossed him. Like,
Right.
we were kind
Exactly.
of in position there. Like the coverage wise on a quarterback that was almost averaging 400 yards a game, and we held them to 214 yards.
And their
Like,
rushing game
I mean,
had been ranked.
yeah, they were
top,
over 100 yards a game rushing, 150 probably.
You know what happens? You know how you can tell who's performing well in the defensive backfield? It's the amount of times Ojulari is getting a sack, or it's the amount of times the defensive tackles are touching that quarterback. That's coverage. Like
Yeah.
those guys are being
Yeah.
held up that far. That's when you know they're doing their job. Yeah, their ball skills when it's in the air, like you want to have like a nice pick and everything. But that'll come, dude. Seven Banks is like a week away from being ready to play. So that's another
Allegedly.
one in that
I
rotation.
feel like that might go down in like LSU lore, though. That Seven Banks is like one game. If we look, guys, if we get to the
Eric Dillon's going to be good.
if we
He's
get
going
to
to
the
be 8 Banks before we
semifinal,
know it.
yeah, if we get to the semifinal, Seven Banks is gonna be back. It was good to see. I was very worried going into this game because, like, we can talk about all the special teams and the kicking errors. It felt like to me the reason LSU lost the Florida State game was because they really couldn't get off the field in third down. And first drive of the game, you think you get off the field in third down. They go for it on fourth. They pick it up and they kind of just march it down your throat and score. And you're just like, this sucks.
And
like,
the team
this
felt
sucks. We had
disrespected.
them. Every other team in the country punts there. Mike Leach decides to go for it. And now we're on our heels and we can't do anything on offense. And then the defense did nothing but just respond and get off the field all day, even when the offense didn't really have their back and were struggling early to really maintain any sort of drive. And it was just fun to watch. Like, it was like, oh, we can rely on this defense. Like, yeah, it
That's
sucks
very
that our
comforting.
offense isn't going to go out and put 50 on everybody every week, but it's like we're gonna be in more games than people think. Like, if this defense keeps playing like this and they keep buying in and learning, and once again, I'll kind of mention it. I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but it's the fourth quarter and everybody looks like they're just ready to get going. They're coming out of halftime. Like, there's none of this. No one looks tired. And I get that's the new talking point, and it's like it's probably going to bite us in the ass one day when we're faking cramps to get off the field. But right now, it's like I'm bought in that this defense is going to keep us around in some games that we probably shouldn't be.
Right, and I think they're going to keep getting better. I like how they started Jacoby and Guillory out there. Like, they're building trust in some of those backup D tackles as well. But the pressure is there. The defensive backs are going to get better. Like we said, Fouché is going to come back. You got Seven Banks going to rotate in. It's going to keep getting deeper, and the more reps these guys get, the better they're going to get. But the linebackers, man, like the linebacker play from week 1 to week 3 is completely different. Like Baskerville, Weeks, and then we talked about Perkins. Hell, dude, even Penn and
Penn's
Jones
playing quality ball. Yeah,
those guys played good coverage football too. Like, they're playing back, they're playing the pass, they're playing the run. So really good all around from all of the linebackers. Great game plan from the defense. But you're right, it's great to finally kind of sit back and be like, huh, this is a little different. Like, at the beginning of that game, I was like, man, here we go. I've seen this song and dance. I know how this ends. But the difference was the defense. The difference was not giving up. We have a job to do until that final whistle blows. I don't care how many tries it takes. The offense will eventually get one in. And then once we started, it was a massive I don't know. The ball got rolling there, but it all started with Slade Roy's fumble recovery, dude. That
Yeah,
was so exciting to see him influence it, right? Because I mean, that was definitely designed. He definitely distracted the return man legally. He
Blew
knew
on his
exactly what to
nose.
do. And then he jumped on the ball. Like it was a heads up play. It was a momentum shift. It was, I mean, turnovers in your own red zone is so huge for that momentum shift. And we score quickly and it's over. It was a route from there on out.
yeah. I mean, LSU went on a 31-3 run. Like pretty much what was it the last minute of the half?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this team's got a lot in them. And Booty had 3 for 31, non-factor.
I do, yeah, and you know what? He's getting doubled out there. He's a decoy. We're using it to our advantage. We neighbors stepped up big to be that quality. Get me
Love
the
neighbors.
ball. Yeah, man, good hands right now.
We got to figure out how to get Bash on the field. Brian Thomas again is a
Brian
guy
Thomas
that I like
is
seeing out there.
again knows for the first down marker, knows for the goal line. Like in the red zone, Brian Thomas and Jeray Jenkins are just headhunters for the goal line. Get these guys
If
the ball. They're just so strong. They're so muscular, and they're able to really power their way through.
Just got to figure out Jaden Daniels can't be going 16, 17, 18 carries like every game in the SEC. It's just not going to
Maybe.
last.
Who knows? I mean, unless we start running the option.
Here,
I mean,
I'm just telling you, like we got to figure out, like as exciting as it is, we're gonna have to figure out how to get Emory the ball more, how to get Neighbors, Booty, Jenkins,
yeah,
Brian Thomas, all these guys. Like it's just it can't be the Jaden Daniels show the whole year.
and it
It's
won't
just not
be,
gonna
and it
work.
won't be, and that's what I'm saying. But I think it is right now because they're not on the same page, and he trusts his legs so much that when he's not on the same page, he can bail himself out. And again, that will not work moving forward throughout the whole season. But for right now, it's working. Like
Yeah,
every
and
time he
Mississippi
bails
State is a
out, he's
good
getting positive
team.
yards.
Like Mississippi State's not the best team LSU is going to
Oh,
play
that's a
this
good
year, but it's
defense, though.
by far not the worst team. Like that team is going to win some games. It's going to be in a lot of games that you probably don't think they will be. So
Arnett's a good defensive coordinator. I really think his game plan is always solid. He brings pressure. I want to definitely, before we change gears here, I really want to talk about the offensive line.
yeah,
We
do it.
talked about how there's been a shuffle every single week. You see, we removed Bradford and we removed Wire, and we input Emory Jones at right tackle. And then you've got Miles Frazier scooting down to right guard, and then Charles Turner at center, Dellinger left guard, and then the staple of the O line, Will Campbell.
Feels like a good line. It
feels like a great
like a good
and a great line
line.
for at least 3 years.
That's what,
Like,
yeah.
I
it
mean,
sounded
pretty
good
solid.
when we found that out. What, a half hour before kickoff, or an hour, whenever that was announced, I was like, "This could work. This could
Emory
work."
Jones has looked the best at tackle that anyone has looked at right tackle that
Well,
anyone has
yeah,
tried, and
but
he's done it against
Dellinger
an SEC
or
defensive.
Dellinger at guard, I was like, "That's actually because he
Think about
dominated blocking wise at center."
you may be able to pull this question. Like I have no idea. When was the last time we had these two, like our tackles were this athletic? I mean,
Oh,
fucking
dude,
Will Campbell stride for stride with good runs, good win last week, and fucking Emery's out there on punt coverage team just making tackles when no one else can. It's like, when was the last time we had athletic tackles like
that
this?
play was one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen from an offensive lineman. Like a
He's
true
nimble.
freshman right tackle, making an open field tackle on a punt returner, looking like a lean Glenn Dorsey out there, like doing the gator roll and everything after the tackle, like getting up. Like he's got so much energy and so much fight. Emory
And
Jones is
you
just
saw
going to
that in
keep
the
getting
Southern
better.
game. You
Yeah,
saw that in
no,
the Southern
he's a
game, and
monster. He plays with rage.
it's like hopefully this is not the guy picking on the second string Southern guy because everyone's going to
Right.
get in and play. And it wasn't like he carried that over into an SEC matchup. Like these guys didn't back down. They went up against a top tier SEC D line and like didn't flinch.
He's
Didn't flinch at
extremely
all.
strong. He's extremely strong. If he gets a hold of you, every time you see his hands get inside, like
It's game over.
he pulls you in tight and you're not going anywhere. Like Emory Jones is that dude. I would be shocked if we see him at all get rotated out ever
No,
again.
I those spots are done, man.
Yeah, I
no
think honestly,
pressures, no sacks for 2 freshmen combined.
yeah,
Like
dude,
that's
the
absurd.
bookends, man, like they look great, and you're gonna have them for
I
years.
did.
That's so solid.
I didn't know how lean he like. You know how we talked about Mason Smith being like, oh my god, like he's
Yeah.
Godzilla out there. Like
He's
he's
so
a
athletic,
you
he
know.
almost looks undersized.
Yeah, I
Yes.
saw a picture of him before the game. They're like, oh, and I was like, that's Mason Smith. They're like, no, like that's Emory Jones. I was like, what? No
Yeah,
one.
big,
Like I thought
strong,
he was
lean
more
dude.
of like a big sloppy guard. Like no, he
No.
looks like a nice right tackle. Like
Literally, like
what are
he's
we
so
doing here?
athletic looking, he almost looks undersized. And you're like, oh wait, but he's
Yeah.
a monster.
Well,
Not
and
He's a
not
Brian Kelly
monster.
talked about that all throughout spring and then going into fall camp. Like, look, the O-line's going to have some shakeups. We still haven't seen Emory Jones yet. Like, he
and
still has
credit
to
to
come
them.
in from high school, like, and he's a dude. So we want to give him a chance to rotate in.
Well, it's like they
prove it.
gave Cameron Wire his shot, and he failed
Failed
miserably.
miserably.
Right. Bradford's he couldn't move as well. I mean, Brad, honestly, like you have to go with putting Emory getting every time Emory got a shot, he was pancaking people and literally like throwing a show, having a party as a right tackle.
Yeah.
And
Credit to
then
the coaching staff for having the balls to just say, like, hey, we're
Yeah.
just gonna do this. Like,
No,
we're
that's
not gonna
big.
wait till
they're preparing for the future.
week 6. We're
Yeah.
not gonna wait till after the Bama game when shit doesn't matter. Like, we're just gonna set this now.
No, and then you've got Turner, who honestly, in my opinion, yeah, the weakest link so far at that center position. They're playing him out of necessity, but if that snap is getting to Jaden Daniels, that's all I give a damn about right now.
Yeah.
Because if he can snap the football, call out the fronts, and then you've got 2 guys with Dellinger, big ass body, and then you got at right guard Frazier. I'm about to have a dog situation behind me. I see that they're starting up. Can y'all hear me when I mute like this?
No, you're good. If you need to
Check
mute.
2. Okay, cool. I was just making sure that's the button I have to press in an emergency. But listen, Frazier, in my opinion, I was really, really excited to see Frazier going into this season. I think at this point, the freshmen are playing better than him. And he got beat.
Well, and what value do you have to play Frazier, who's maybe marginally better, and knowing that like this guy is a foundational piece for the next 3-4 years, and potentially on a holding down an offensive line on a team you think is going to play in a national championship game?
Yeah. Mike's over there.
Mike's taking care of the dogs. I tried to throw it to Grant. Grant didn't want any. He wanted to enjoy it.
No, no,
and
I had high expectations for Frazier too, and he's a monster. He's a big body guy. There's no one else. I mean,
where does the Lance Hurd fit in here?
Guard.
yeah,
It's
it's
just gonna flow into your right guard.
Yeah, because I think Frazier is going to
unless he does what Emory's doing this year, and Emory does move back to guard. That's your right side. I think that's your right side right there.
Yeah, I think Hurd comes in, takes over for Frazier. I think Hurd's going to take a little longer to develop. I don't think he's going to start right out of the gates immediately. And he's going to be
probably
one of those,
a good thing.
Absolutely. Look, get used to this. I think we're about to see offensive line and tight end be a major emphasis in recruiting, where we're going to have so much depth where you might have a Hurd that's just, waiting to be a redshirt sophomore before he gets his first crack
like we get
at
with
it.
receivers the last few years.
But I don't think
that's going to be the O-line.
Hurd, but like get used to seeing that in the future. DJ Chester is another guy we're recruiting very heavily, 4-star guard. I think he's a top 150 player. I mean, that's another guy you got to squeeze in there. Then you got Fitzgerald West at center. I mean, you have an O-line for the future that's going to be stout.
Or better than we've seen. Like, I mean, geez.
Oh, no, they're going to be good. I think they're going to be fucking good.
From what I saw this week, I was like, wow, this is the best O-line. Like last year, maybe in week the Florida game was like, holy cow, look at this O-line. And then, it was just a bad team. This was the best O-line play we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, I can't stop thinking about Will Campbell running stride for stride with a running back, and then the other tackle just like making a beautiful picture-perfect form tackle on the outside. And it was just
did you see them dancing? Did you see them dancing in the end zone?
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
There's something brewing. I may take a little bit, and we may have to eat a little bit more shit from the bar stools of the world than making fun of us, but
Oh,
Something's
freaking Brandon
brewing.
Walker got his ass kicked this week.
Oh,
It was
I love
hilarious
it.
yeah.
to see.
Whatever.
But we offensive line, I think personnel wise, we're almost there. I think we're just about there. I like this 5. Now it's
Yeah, I
time
think
to
this
get
is
in
what it's
sync.
going to stay with. And outside of injury,
We need
we're
a center and a
locked
tight
in
end
here.
We need our communication to be locked in. We need everybody to be on the same page. No more procedural penalties, like those little penalties that keep shooting us in the foot. Our offense is not at the level it needs to be, where we can just have stupid false
Overcome.
starts and all of a sudden we're going to get 50 yards the next play. Like that's not our offense. So we
Yeah.
need to take advantage of being clean and not shooting ourselves in the foot. Because when you go to Auburn, look, I don't care what we think about Auburn right now. That's a very losable game the minute you start shooting yourself in the foot. We have to shore that up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Like everyone can laugh at Auburn now, but it's like it's going to be a different game when we go in there. Like I know Penn State ran it up on them, and we're going to say that Penn State's not even that good, but it's just an LSU game there. It's going to play tougher than we think.
So this comment, then what is Daniel's problem? If the O-line played so well, I have a lot higher expectations to complete more than one ball over 10 yards. Yeah, well, we talked about it in the beginning of the podcast. To answer that question is I really don't think Jaden Daniels and the wide receivers are on the same page.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of hesitancy to see him push the ball down the field. Again, like we said earlier in the podcast, we all can see that there's open wide receivers and he has time to get the ball down there. But there's just a little bit of hesitancy there. And I think it has a lot to do with a couple of those balls that he did fire and it was completely off. And you could tell that the communication was broken down where someone's running a go and he thought they were going to be settling in the zone. I'm being very generic here. But those little things, just like the little things on the O-line, like having a false start like 5 times in a row, that's also happening in a different sense with the wide receivers and the quarterback. It's those little easy communication breakdowns that why is this happening? That's the frustrating part. But I think that's why you see Jaden Daniels not really take strikes. Now, why are we not calling quick outs more to counter that?
in the first half?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think we're really trying to fit, something that's not there. I think that's what Denbrock's problem is right now is, hey, we're going to center this offense around Mason Taylor, even though we shouldn't. Hey, we're going to keep trying to push the ball downfield, even though Jaden Daniels is not on the same page with the receivers. But we have bailouts. Like every single time we've not been able to execute that, Jaden Daniels has made plays with his legs. So now he's kind of becoming dependent on that, which we have to coach out of him. But I don't really side with the idea of coaching that all the way out of him because like his legs are very good. Like, and he's a tough
If we
runner.
wanted someone to sit back there and sling it, I think Nussmeier would probably be taking snaps.
Yeah, I mean
So,
yeah, I think
I agree.
we need to run the football with Jaden Daniels. I'm okay with that.
I think it falls on everybody. I think the coaches need to do a better job of scheming it up. I think the players need to do a better job of executing. I think Daniels needs to be more willing to go through a progression and not take off and run. I think as this team shows and as this offensive line shows that like, hey man, we're going to hold up for you. I think that'll happen more and he'll start using his legs more as a weapon instead of a defense mechanism. And then that's where it gets fun. That's where we start making some real plays when he can start pushing the ball down the field and you can't spy this guy or you can't have a safety sit low. They have to be back because if not, Brian Thomas is gone.
And
It's like this team still has potential. I haven't been blown away and been super stoked about how the offenses looked. Like I said, it's felt very Les Miles to me at times where we're just subbing and doing like kind of the same stuff. And it's like not really super exciting. And I don't know. We'll see. It's just going to take some time. I'm willing to buy in.
The difference between the Les Miles situation and this situation, in my opinion, because I do agree with you when it comes to like the psychological toll it takes on a fan when you're sitting back and you're watching this type of offense, especially in the true early stages of this progression.
Are we ever going to get a first down? Is that going to happen today?
Right. I believe with this staff,
2-minute drill, we will.
I believe that they will get better. I really
I
feel like
agree.
by mid-season, by like the end of October going into November, I think we have an identity on offense that's not just, oh, Jaden Daniels can run. Like that, I think we're going to have an identity that's beyond that moving forward because of what we had just seen in 3 weeks' time from the defense. And I know defense, offense, totally different, right? No, Brian Kelly has an expectation for his coordinators. Brian
I
Kelly
agree.
has an expectation for his team. I think the offense is just a little behind with finding who they are individually. Now that they have that figured out, I really think we're going to build and build and build. And then eventually, hopefully, mid-season, we've got a solid product where we win the games we're supposed to win.
I agree. Does that put a bow on LSU? Is there any other
I do want to give one last assessment observation on LSU. I do know a lot of people were complaining that there was a lot of empty seats, but if the camera was not on those empty seats, I would have thought, based on crowd noise, that that place was double booked. It was so loud in the perfect times. I
Where were
thought
the
that
in the upper deck? Like that's been the last 5 years.
yeah, I
Like
mean, you know how people are. I mean, it is what it is. I get it. It's honestly, it does like they've outpriced people for one thing. You can't just stroll in there and pay like $40 and go enjoy a football game. You know, like the casual fan truly has to go through leaps and bounds to go to a football game, which
the
is kind of
5 o'clock?
ridiculous.
The 5 o'clock kick was kind of nice.
Yeah, 5 o'clock
we
kick was great.
we bitched about it, but it was actually cool.
It's kind
That
of
was
nice.
really cool. I loved like it made me want to stay up later.
Right, but like
Yeah.
also it was like the fourth quarter, everything had gotten dark, and you're like, I gotta, man, what's the lake? I gotta go to bed soon. And you're like, oh shit, no, like we're good. Like we're
It's
still in
always
prime time,
And I knew
baby.
I kind of felt like our guys on the field. I was like, the minute it gets to like mid third quarter when it's like real dark Death Valley, like I feel like we're about to turn on. And like it's
Yeah.
honestly like as that sun went down, it's like, okay, this is how you play football. But no, I thought the crowd did a great job and
And
being
there's no
in
excuse to
tune.
like have to leave early whenever it's like a 5 o'clock kick, too. I know there's
Yeah.
always
But I
traffic
mean,
and
even
everything, but it's
within
easier, an 8 o'clock kick. It's like, dude, I don't want to get home at 3 a.m.
yeah, no, but within the game. Like within the
Yes,
game, third downs, they were cheering at the right times. I mean, everybody was truly in sync with the feel and the momentum of the game. I think the fans did a great job.
I agree.
Let's get into some
Shout
college football talk.
Shout out to Marcus Freeman getting his first his win as a head coach.
It's close.
Who's back of the week?
It's close. I thought I had another who's back. I guess I don't. I hate when that happens. Yeah, I
Mm,
hate that.
we'll
I
th-
hate
we'll
when that
think
happens.
we'll think about it. Let's think who
Max
else could be
Johnson's back.
kind of back, I guess. That was I don't know. That game was interesting. I had a feeling A&M. It was one of those like you bury the team and then they're gonna obviously come out and get a W. But like once again, just a completely like not super impressive performance. Miami couldn't really move. It felt like Miami moved the ball way better than Texas A&M did, but A&M kind of had control of the whole game. Special teams, it feels
Again,
like
everywhere.
across the nation, no matter what level of football you're watching, it feels like special teams and kicks are at an all-time miss rate and like failure rate right now. Like it's a pandemic of
Yep.
poor special teams.
Poor special teams, and it's a huge part of the game. I mean, you can flip the script in a heartbeat, man. You fumble a kick return or a punt return in your own deep in your own territory. That's tough, dude. That's tough to recover
Arkansas
The
from.
Arkansas was on the ropes
Mississippi
of Fighting
State missed an
Caprinos.
extra point. They
Yeah.
missed an extra point.
That's
Like,
another
what are
reason
we-
why we should. That's another reason why we should have went for 2 because it's like the fact like we're not even sure they can make the extra point if we don't get it. Making it a 2 possession game there is the play every time, 1,000%. Especially when you don't trust your own special teams.
I got disconnected. I had one point to say about LSU, and this is it. And y'all kind of hit on this.
All right, so Notre Dame.
That's right. Yeah,
The-
Emery
the-
played well. I thought John Emery,
Yeah.
it slowly but surely is getting healthy. He's close to breaking a big one, though.
Very close.
I was-
Very
I
close.
was
So let's
gonna-
get into the SEC.
I was going to talk about the fact that I feel like in the even less miles, we had guys cramping up in the third quarter. Knock on wood, our team, and I know people keep harping on this, but like no one's cramped up.
It's
Like
gonna
no one's
look.
going out
because
for
we
that.
have a coach. Like we
Yes.
have someone that's going to be like, get your fucking ass up. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I've
this
just
is
been
not
blown
part of
away
my
by that
plan. Get up.
because this would have been the game, 5 o'clock kickoff. It was still pretty hot. That Micah Baskerville. It's like where we need him in the fourth quarter, and like he's out for a cramp. It's like,
No,
what are
I
we
agree.
doing?
I
And
agree.
that did not happen to one player.
Nope.
Strength and
I don't know. That was
conditioning
my
coach.
my takeaway.
No, there's
Strength
a
and
lot of
conditioning
things.
has been a huge upgrade, and I think it's already done wonders. At some point, it's going to bite us in the ass. Like something's going to happen. But like, I agree. I'm very excited about that. It's
We're
like
seeing improvement in many areas.
that's going to be a
was
selling point
Moffitt.
of this program. At some point,
It starts with everything, dude. It starts with the way we eat. Like these kids, it starts with the way like they're held accountable going to class. Like
it starts with
it's those little things, man, that all of a sudden when you're on the field, like you trust that last rep that I took that I didn't want to give up on is going to matter when I'm filling a gap when the guard pulls. It's like, oh shit, I'm glad Baskerville paid attention to that rep in practice because he's got a sack behind the line of scrimmage, and now we get the ball in our territory. It's like little bitty details have a butterfly effect, and you have to have a solid coach to communicate that and make those kids understand for them to buy in. And that's what this season's about. Because if this team can buy in this early, year one for Brian Kelly, it's just going to be easier and easier every single year after that for those kids to all fall in line. And then by like year 3, it's known. Like this is how we go about business. The days of Orgeron and letting kids fucking go crazy and do whatever the hell they want all day, that's done. That's history.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're instilling the foundation of those habits. Brian Kelly talked a lot in the preseason about building those habits to championship football team. Year 2, it's like all these freshmen and everyone coming in, they know the standard is when you wake up in the morning, you do your check-in, you do this, you go to the building for tutoring, you go here and eat, you do your work. Like it's not a, oh man, the new coach got this. Like that's just standard operating procedure at some point.
Yep.
And the fact that all these guys, the Ojalaris and all these guys have bought in just means that like that's the foundation going forward. And it's really exciting to think about. Like I said, it's possible that Alabama beats us by 100 and we get made fun of the entire week. Like that's out there.
But it's also possible that we coach ourselves up to being a decent team that can play with anybody. Not beat anybody, but play with anybody.
Give me all the futures on LSU. It may not be this year, it may not be next year,
we're
but
building something special.
This team is gonna make some noise.
Y'all want to run through top 10 and just see what we think about their games they played, who they got coming up, what we got coming up next weekend. Big weekend coming up. For
Big
the boys.
weekend. We won't be watching too much during the day because I'm flying out to meet up with Mike. We're gonna play a little golf this weekend. Little 40 50 holes, maybe throw the cradle in there, 58. I don't know.
Possible.
I can't add.
We'll see. We're starting off Saturday morning, a little mid-south, and then we'll be at Pinehurst Saturday afternoon. Sunday morning, waking up, hitting the Duke. University of Duke course, so that'll be pretty awesome. A lot of golf on tap for us out here, so we'll be catching the football via replay on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I think what we might do is live tweet the game like 2 hours late.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I think people would actually enjoy that.
Yeah, it might be funny. It might get 3 likes, and that's fine.
Grant will keep us up to date.
But I don't know. LSU is going to blow New Mexico out, hopefully.
Then Big Dog G's coming in the following weekend. Going to do some brewery tours, Auburn weekend. Going to get rowdy on Finley.
Auburn's bad. That's a bad football team.
That's a catastrophe. They're a catastrophe.
It's a catastrophe. Clemson at Wake Forest is a morning game that could get a little dicey. You don't know. Wake Forest quarterback's back.
Pretty good team. Clemson's like a top 10 team that a lot of people think are top 5. They could slip up. But no, I got to shit. I think Brett has to shit. I think we're all on the same page.
Is it just time to wrap
yeah,
it up?
We're about 55 minutes in. This is a good post game. I know
Florida,
it's a,
Tennessee. That's the only game.
It's a
Florida,
Monday.
Tennessee, and Texas A&M, Arkansas. Look out for those.
Arkansas. All right, guys.
We done. Over and out.
Over and out.